That is
Oh,
cool.
yeah, it's cool. It's refreshing. I like that countdown.
It's really cool.
Everybody, welcome back to Six Elemental Interviews on my channel, PL Strip Drug Team
Sweet.
Saga. And tonight, I have an absolutely fabulous guest. I've been waiting for this all week.
Me too.
An amazing author, a
Thank you.
wonderful gent, the author of the Hybrid Helix series. He just keeps pumping out these books. I can't keep up.
No,
Read
again.
the read the first one, Will Still
Oh, thank
Sending.
you.
Absolutely loved it. It
Yeah,
was an
yeah.
incredible book. I will definitely read the entire series. It'll take me a while to catch up, though, as
You're
I
too
said, because
kind. Yeah.
he really pumps these out quickly. Um, Welcome, the amazing
Yeah.
JCM Berne. How you doing,
Thank you,
brother?
PL. I'm great. That's great. I'm glad to talk. I've been a fan. I was just saying to PL off the camera, I'm a fan. I loved your book. I read only the first one of the series because my TBR is I don't have a lot of reading time. Unfortunately, you start writing, you have a lot less time to read. But I've been a fan of your online stuff, like the interviews and the shows for long before I got to read the book. So it's a super big pleasure to be here. We were trying to figure out, remember, because I was on page chewing a while ago and I was like, I can't, I think you missed that one. But there were like 7 people on there and it was a long time ago and I was drinking a lot. So it was one of those episodes. Um, but I made friends from like that episode that I still have. Like I met Joe Carroll, like he was another guest. There were like 4 guests and he was there. And like, I still do streams with him. Like we're talking about Dungeon Crawler Carl, like book by book, like on his channel. So like I made friends. It's so funny. It's such a funny community. Anyway, I'm babbling, which is what I
No,
do.
not at all. Just it's an amazing community, and
Yeah,
you're a
yeah,
wonderful part
yeah.
of it, man.
Thank you. Yeah.
Everybody loves you, man. Everybody talks about JCM,
Wow.
and you're
I
definitely
tried.
beloved in the community. So we were
That's
talking
sweet.
backstage before, and a lot of things
Yeah.
I don't know about you. So you said you're a high school teacher at one point. Is that
Was my all my training's in philosophy. I got an undergrad and most of a PhD in philosophy. I wanted to be a philosophy professor, and then it wasn't going to work. I didn't finish my PhD. There were other reasons it wasn't going to work. That market wasn't good, so I loaded trucks for UPS for a while because that's the job I could get. I was in Buffalo, like there was no economy, and then I ended up moving to Baltimore, and I got a job as a high school teacher because I had been pre-med for like a year. So I took a bunch of science classes as a pre-med, right? And then I dropped, I wasn't going to go to med school anymore. So I stopped taking science classes, but it was enough to get a job as a high school science teacher.
wow?
And I'm like, well, you'll pay me money to like just stand up and teach. And like after loading trucks for a couple of years, I was like, any job where like my back doesn't hurt at the end of the day, I'm taking that. Like that's got to be better because like loading, like physical labor is hard, right? Like it's a different kind of hard. So I was a high school teacher in like inner city Baltimore. Like if you've seen The Wire, that's
Yeah,
it. Like we were in one of the hardest hit neighborhoods in Baltimore in terms of like AIDS rates, like heroin use, like serious drug addiction. Like if I drove through the neighborhoods where my kids lived, like half the houses were boarded up. It was
yeah.
inner city Baltimore. And I I I wasn't I was an okay but not great teacher. I didn't understand what I was seeing at the time. Sadly, I kind of understood it better after the fact. I kind of understood what these kids needed better after the fact, and not that I was the worst, but I wasn't as good as I wasn't as useful to them as I should have been. That's a long story. I mean, I can go on and on about the education system and inner cities and how it's the failure of the American system, like for days. And that's not the purpose of this podcast, but I have inside scoop, right? Because I was there, and then I ended up like sort of switching into like IT, where I was the guy who would like make up all the schedules for the kids in the computer and like help with like getting all the grades sorted and all that stuff. And then I ended up doing the same thing at the citywide level. So I was like in the rooms where decisions were being made that were impacting like the system as a whole. I wasn't making the decisions, but I was like the guy in the back who's there like, is our system going to work with this if we want to do this? And I'd be like, yes, it will, because we can handle a 6-period day or whatever the hell you want. So I learned a lot of stuff that did not make it any better. And then I got out. Now I work and now I'm a software developer. So people, do you miss the kids? No, I do not. I got totally burnt out teaching. It was a hard job. It was a really hard job. And I don't miss it. but there were a lot of great kids, it's just, the system is very frustrating. It's one of those few things where like I worked there and I was like, they offered anyone with a pulse. Oh, do you want to take these courses to go be on a principal track? Like, it's
Yeah.
not impressive. If you've been there for a few years, they offer you this kind of track. And I was like, I wouldn't know how to run the school. Like, I'm an arrogant, like, confident. I'm like, I'm smarter than everybody, right? But I'm like, I can't run the school. Like, I would not be able to make good decisions to make this work, to get what you want anyway. So I didn't. But now I work with no people, so it's much easier. I sit in front of a computer all day and I write software, so much easier to do.
Man, it's fascinating. But kudos to you for taking on the challenge of being a teacher.
Uh,
It's one of those vocations that's one of the most important jobs in the world.
yeah,
Educating our
yeah,
youth. So
yeah,
hats off to you,
yeah.
my friend, for
It
taking
was
it on.
hard.
But
Thank you, thank you. Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
very few
You,
meaningful jobs are easy, right? So
yeah, yeah, and and then there are, there's just flaws in the system. What they want from you, just it's like, like if the kids don't do well, they like, well, we're going to take money away from the school because clearly you're not doing your job. And I'm like, these kids need more help, not less help. They're not doing well because they like don't have the support structures at home that the kids like 2 miles up because like 2 miles up the road were kids who were like, 6 tax brackets higher, and I'm like, those kids go home and they have food and they have a maid clean their room and they have, all this stuff. And my kids are taking care of their younger siblings, or there's a much different situation. They don't have necessarily a good meal waiting for them. Like, we don't need less funding. We need more, but the system's designed to punish you if the kids don't do well. And I'm like, it's just like this. It's very frustrating. I'm glad to not be there. I don't have good answers. I mean, I do, but like the answers require restructuring at a systemic level. Like how we fund education. That's not happening. So,
well,
yeah,
most systems, are imperfect and need fixing.
yeah.
But at the same time, again, hats off to you for
Oh, thanks.
being someone who is trying to be part of the solution
Yeah.
and taking on the responsibility of helping to
Oh, Eddie
educate our
Castro.
kids. So yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
we got some people in the audience already. We got the wonderful
Yeah. Very
Chimipo.
nice.
What's up,
Hey,
Chimipo?
Chimipo. How you
Amazing person
doing?
in the community. What's up? Always
Yeah.
great to see you. He's always
Yeah.
a good day when he was out. And another amazing supporter, the
Eddie
awesome
Castro.
Eddie Castro. What's up,
Yeah.
buddy? Good to
Yeah.
see you.
I'm
Thanks for coming
great,
out.
man. My eighth book is coming out on Tuesday, so I am eagerly awaiting the thing. Yeah, cover came out pretty good. I was happy. I don't know if you saw the cover, but it's very colorful. It's got a giant turtle on it, so I'm pretty happy. And because that's I like my kaiju. Not every book has a giant monster, but most of them do. um so yeah, someone just found, it's that, like, you got to get the text in by like July. This was the deadline, and Usman from Bards and Books, who's a friend of mine who's read all the books, and he's reading this one as an arc. He's like, you made a mistake on page 102. I'm like, did I? I'm like, I have like 3 hours to fix it, reformat, and resubmit it. I got it done at like 5 p.m. I was like,
Oh,
okay.
that's awesome. Yeah,
So yeah.
huge kudos
Yeah,
and
yeah.
congratulations.
Thank you.
You're really kicking butt with the series.
Wow.
Congratulations on Shield of the Mothership.
Oh, thank you.
Turn 7 of Hybrid
Turn
Helix.
7. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
just want to quickly as well, we got another awesome fella, the
Yeah. Yeah.
amazing Shane Boys. What's up, brother? How's it going?
Shane's a huge boon to the indie community. He's always talking about people's books and doing these great reviews and everything, and that's super handy and useful for all of us.
Yes,
So
he
that's
is.
great.
Fabulous reviewer. His reviews are like poetry, man.
Fantastic.
And the
Yeah.
graphics and stuff,
Yeah. Yeah.
top notch.
They're stunning, man.
Yeah,
The reviews are good, but that's the text. But the graphics are stunning.
yeah,
So I love that. The community is why I do it now. Like, I kind of got to a um, no, I don't do mecha. GB Po's asking if I use mecha to fight them.
yeah.
No. Rohan's the type of, he just punches. He's a punching them in the face, like, even if their face is like 50 meters wide, kind of guy. That's you got to have a little variety. You can't just beat up small people all the time. Sometimes you got to beat up a giant bug or a giant turtle or something. So I mix it up.
Oh yeah,
But the community is like I reached this point like a year or two ago. I was like, I'm not making money, but like the recognition and this is the associations. Like, I'd go to cons and like meet people, and we'd all like hug and like buy each other drinks. And I was like, I can't quit. Now I'm in it for the long haul, you know.
Yeah, the
because
community is absolutely incredible, and we're
yeah, it
definitely going
really
to
is.
circle back to all your books. But so you did all these things. You're obviously well educated. You were a teacher. You got into IT. How did the writing come in? Where did that start?
I got so I was like doing D&D stuff, and I did a lot of world building for D&D, and I really didn't have any plan to write fiction. This is back in the 90s. And then I read for some reason, I don't know why, but I read R.A. Salvatore. And it wasn't even the Drizzt stuff. It was the Cleric Quintet. And he had
Oh,
these scenes of like dwarves fighting skeletons. And it was just going on and on for like 100 pages of dwarves fighting. It wasn't really good, but it was something about it struck me. And I'm like, I could write this. I think because it wasn't great. It wasn't like super beautiful prose. It was just sort of fun, actiony stories. And I'm like, I could do that. And I'd been a reader my whole life. I've been reading like science fiction and fantasy since like third grade, like big time comic books, big time manga. That was my jam. But I was a consumer, not a creator. And then so it was the late 90s. I was working for UPS. I was loading trucks, and I was like, it was a part time job, so I had time. And I wrote like a novel that I thought was good enough, and I sent it to Tor, and they said no, thank you. And then I sort of didn't know what to do then. Like I didn't have the. This is 99, right? I didn't have the or 98. I think it was 98. Didn't have the internet the way we do now. You couldn't just like find information on like what I didn't even really understand that you would rewrite the book. I thought you just wrote a draft and then you fixed the typos and then you submitted it. It never really occurred to me that you'd like tear it apart and rewrite it almost from scratch. Like I just didn't know. And I didn't find out until many years later, really until like 2020. So then life got in the way. I had kids, had a more demanding job when I was a high school. But even as a high school teacher, during my planning period, one year I wrote another book, a superhero book. This was in like 2007. Didn't even send it anywhere. It's like sitting in a. I don't think it's very good, but I mean, I had the idea that I would do it. I think if the self-publishing industry had existed in 2007 the way it did in like 2015, I think my life might have been different because I think I would have self-published that book as a high school teacher, and I might have done okay because 2015 it was much less competitive. It was much easier to get traction on Amazon, but it didn't exist in '07, right? Like this was pre-Kindle. If you wanted to self-publish, you had to like do a print run of 1,000 books, and sell them out of your car. And I was a high school teacher. I wasn't going to just drop money, on a vanity project. Like that wasn't in the cards. So I just put it aside. And then in 2020, I guess I just got a little situation where I got kind of in a groove at my job where I was working a lot, but I wasn't working like 12-hour days.
Yeah.
And then my kids were mostly, and at some point I just felt like I needed to do something that felt like I was contributing. My day job it's a good job, right? My boss is great, but I'm writing stuff. My job makes rich people slightly richer, slightly more efficiently. Like I'm not helping anybody. Right? It doesn't fill your soul, right? Like it's challenging and it's hard work and it pays well, but like it's not. It doesn't feel good at the end of the day. Like it's like I got these Muni evaluations to that customer on time. Like who cares, right? Like it doesn't really. So I wanted to do something else, and I love writing fiction. I think I'm better. I feel like this is the thing I'm best at. I feel I'm a better storyteller than I am a software developer. I'm a pretty okay software developer, but I'm not a great. No one's like talking about me. You know how you're in an environment where like people like you're in a martial arts or something, and like when you're not there, people, oh, that guy's really good. You should see his sidekick, right, or something, right? No one's talking about my software like that, right? And that's fine. But like I'm like I don't know. I wanted to do something that felt better. So sort of, and I had the idea for stories. All my stories are written from spite, right? There'll be some property that I love how it does, but it makes something that to me is like a mistake. You can argue, is it really a mistake? I don't know, but like to me it is, and I'm like, I'm going to fix it. I'm going to write Invincible, but I'm going to fix the twist that I think they did wrong. And that's how all my writing happens. It's always something that I really like, but I want to do it a little differently than the original.
Wow.
All of it.
That's incredible. Well, I can tell you, people are talking about your books, man, with a lot of praise. So you achieved that, and that's what you're looking for. You achieved that with the series, man, for sure.
I've got a lot of really generous feedback. It's really nice. People are responded well, and I got a really good narrator in Wayne. I just got lucky. And so people really like the audiobook, and so that's been nice. I need more of those. I'm getting 2 more done this year at the end of the year. So I think I've got some people waiting for the audio, and I'm like,
Yes.
it's been a while. I'm sorry, guys, but like, it's expensive. And Wayne had some personal issues. He like basically took a year and a half off from the industry. So like, I'm like, I couldn't get him. I was about to skip narrators and go to someone new, and he's like, I can do it at the end of the year. And I'm like, fine, I can wait. I'll wait for you, man, because he's really good. So yeah.
What do you? I mean, again, brother, this series is really, for me, in terms of indie, this is really blown up.
Yeah.
Why do you think this is so popular?
You're gonna get me in trouble, man.
Why do you think it's so popular?
You need a sound clip of me sounding like a jerk, right? So I think so. That's a really interesting question. I mean, I can just say I think it's really good, and that should be enough. I mean, part of it is stuff like it's really different. I don't know of anyone else writing. I can't explain exactly how. It's not like other superhero stuff. Like most superhero stuff does the superhero thing, like a lot of capes, a lot of origin stories, a lot of on Earth, and I don't do that, right? I don't really fulfill the tropes. It's more like Dragon Ball Z, I think, than like Superman, in terms of like the tropes I hit and like the setting even. And not a lot of people are writing fiction like that. And then it's got and then there's a lot of people are writing like a grimmer, darker stuff, and this is kind of not. Like I kind of very deliberately went, like most people in yeah, right. Shane's comment made me laugh. But like like in my book, I made a point, right? Most of the people are pretty nice. Like if you run into someone, they're gonna like have it, like buy you a beer, and they're gonna sit down and chat. Most people, like he lives on a space station. There's not like people constantly protesting and angry at each other. Everyone's pretty happy, right? That's just the way I wanted this to make the world. People may say that's not realistic. I don't care, right? My book's about a guy flying through space, punching giant bugs, right? Like if it's not realistic, I can live with that. I think I that ship has sailed, right? I'm okay making it everyone's just nicer. And even my villains for the most part are like misunderstood or damaged. And like sometimes you have to kill them, right? That's part of the storyline, but like none of them are just evil, right? I was watching like Jack Reacher, the show on Amazon Prime, right? And like the bad guys are just evil sadists to the core, through and through. And they're like, "Why do you think he's like that?" And Reacher's like, "I don't care. I never gave it." Like he doesn't care. Like that's not what it's about. It's about putting a bullet in those guys' heads, right? And I love those stories. I love that. I love Jack Reacher. I love the show, but like I'm not writing that. And you're not going to have the sadist, right? I always tell people like, oh, if you meet it like a kid or like a dog, I guarantee they're going to be safe, right? Like, no, they're not going to get like, his girlfriend's never going to get kidnapped by the bad guys, And then you add to that, I have pretty good covers. The covers are striking and colorful and not typical. Chris McGrath. Chris McGrath's, and he's expensive, but gives it a distinctive visual style. And then part of it is. I think something that I've done that I think a lot of other indie authors wouldn't do is sort of persist with this long series, and I keep pumping out books, even if I'm losing a bunch. That I think other people might have given up by now, or done something different, or moved on, and there's nothing wrong with that choice. But it does build. I'm still getting new people picking up Wistful Sending, and book 7's coming out, and hopefully when book 15 is coming out, I'll still get even more people picking up Wistful Ascending, and a lot of other people, they'll write like a trilogy and then move on to something else, and you lose some momentum with that, which isn't necessarily. You also may gain some. I mean, there's trade-offs. Marketing is not my strongest suit, but and then I think I try to be present. Like I'm on social media, I tweet a lot. I have fun with it because I like that stuff. Like I like these things. So that helps get me also more eyeballs because I do the stuff, and for some people, these kinds of things are a strain. And you can see it, right? But for me, I just love it. So that's my nature. So,
well,
I'm going to say though, yeah,
I absolutely love having you. So,
thank you.
Yeah. So no, but well deserved. And so now I'm getting a sense more about: could this series be infinite? Like, will you just spend the rest of your days with Rohan, punching space bugs and taking out bad guys, and maybe having occasional romance and.
It might be the rest of my days because I'm old, right? So I don't have how many. My dad died at 58. I'm like, I think I'll outlive that, but I mean, I'm 54, so like I may not have that much time. I have a structure for the series and an end. And then, but the end is like where the story winds up, but you can always do and then
Yeah.
100 years later,
Yeah.
you can do like almost, but then it's almost like a side story.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying I wouldn't do that, but that's not the plan. Like I have an ending. I know what I want Rohan to accomplish. I know very loosely how he's going to do. I don't have like a book by book outline. I don't work that way. I have a very rough thing. I want to do an homage to a very particular manhwa that I loved. It's going to be a big thing, and stuff will happen along the way that I think of. But there's an end. There's an end to the main storyline, and it's going to happen. And I tell people 25 books, but I don't know. It might be 17 books, but it's not. But I mean, like I'm planning book 8, and you're just getting an inkling of the end game, right? Like in book 8, you'll see kind of where it might end up, which means it can't really end in. It's not 3 more books worth. I mean, it's 10 more books worth or 15 more books worth. I don't want to I don't want to be the guy either. It's like I said 25, I'm going to write 25, even if I have no freaking ideas. You don't want to be that guy either, right? Like if it wraps up in 21 books, it wraps up in 21 books. But then I have already had ideas for things that could happen where you come back and it's like, because you've got technology, right? You've got like, I always imagine Rohan, if he survives the end of the series, being stuck in like we have these null entropy chambers. They're basically like freezers, right? You go inside, time stops. For potentially any length of time. And then when someone opens the door, you just go like, oh, you just closed the door. What? Oh, and then like 10,000 years could have passed, right? So he could get stuck in one of those, and you could have a whole thing where now it's 10,000 years later, and what happened to the galaxy, right? Like, but that would be like the next story or like a side story. That wouldn't be. It would still will have ended. But you can always do stuff like that's the beauty of fantasy, right? Or sci-fi.
Oh, absolutely.
It's like
But
it's open ended.
What is it that makes you want to continue writing in this with Rohan in this world? Is it the world? Is it Rohan? Is it? I mean, you've written, Partial Function, which is a different main character set in the same universe. Like, what is it about? What is it that makes you want to write 25 books? Hybrid Heroes.
Rohan's the more complex character. So when I write like the Grim Dwarf, which was like a fantasy thing that I'm probably I gave it away for free. I'm probably going to stick it on Amazon probably even next week. But that's much more of a like ogre of the week, punching things till they fall down kind of storyline, and it's a much simpler character. Partial Function was a much simpler character. It was this mom, and she's very tough, and she's trying to get her kids back. Her daughters are kidnapped, and she basically tears up the place getting her daughters back, right? And it's got an interesting plot, I think, but she's much simpler sort of morally speaking, because she's completely whatever it takes to get her daughters back, period, end of story. No, nothing else. And Rohan is meant to be a little more complex and a little more me making statements about ethics and about morality and about like kindness and the importance of understanding, because he's a guy who's very good at murdering and trying to cut back on murder and trying to live a life where murdering, even though he's very good at it, is not his first way of dealing with problems, right? And that's the whole thing. And I'm like, the more time goes on and politics goes on, I kind of feel like it's even more important for me to make the statements that I'm trying to make with these books. I'm trying to say something about how to be in the world. So to me, it adds a little bit. And then because it's a space opera, there's just so much world building you can pull in. You can just pull in everything. It's not just like, oh, we're fighting another like orc. Like, no, you can pull in, giant bugs and time travel and whatever if you can pull it in, so people like, I can't believe, like, I remember I've had a number of viewers like, I can't believe how many different like how much crap he threw in this book. And if they're nice reviewers, like, and he pulled it off at the end. But people, I don't know if I pull it off, but I throw a lot of crap in there. Like, I got cat people. Yeah, you should pick up my books. You should feel bad. Absolutely. I second that. I'm totally kidding. Totally kidding. There's a lot to read. There's a lot of good stuff to read. So that makes it fun. And this is the genre of my heart, I think, is that superhero, like that's superheroes in space, like the gyms. I don't know if you're as much of a you're not a comic book guy, are you? Or were you?
Not a big comic. When I was younger,
okay.
Yeah. But
okay. So I was big into like the Jim Starlin, like the space stuff, like Warlock and Thanos and like the original Captain Marvel, the male Captain Marvel, who still amazed they killed him and they never brought him back. Like that's like bizarre. That was the first big graphic novel Marvel ever made. It was the Captain Marvel got cancer and died, and they never brought him back. It's like the only. It's a very strange, very, very good commitment on their part because they wanted to make that graphic novel meaningful, and they stuck to it for like 30 years, which is crazy. Anyway, 40 years, I think now. Anyway, um, yeah, and then I liked the character resonates. Yeah, Adam Warlock and Thanos. That's the stuff that's a lot of the flavor that I pulled into this Dragon Ball Z, Invincible, all that stuff. But that I love those, man, those old Warlock stories. I don't know if you know Adam Warlock PL, but he was a character who he was fighting this guy called the Magus, who was like this tyrant over their corner of the galaxy, right? And the Magus was like the big bad, right? The Magus, and he knew this, the Magus is him in the future, came back in time and becomes the Magus. And that's his enemy. He knows he's going to turn into the guy that he dedicated his life to fighting.
Wow.
Like that is good stuff, right?
Yeah.
That is cool. Cool story.
That
Sorry.
is good stuff.
Anyway.
Yeah, and
Uncle Ben,
yeah. You know, that's funny. And I mean, with the MCU, there's all these different universes, all these different timelines.
Yeah.
You figure someone's coming back in one of them. But yeah, that's curious. I haven't heard or read of anything where Uncle Ben comes back, and you figure with all of the different Spider-Man iterations that he would. But anyways, that's
trying to remember. Trying to remember if he was in the Ultimate Marvel universe, and I can't remember. I read those, but it was a while ago. They have so many. That's one reason I don't like multiverse stories, because I feel like it cheapens everything, right? Like your girlfriend dies, just find her doppelganger in some very similar universe, and oh, honey, I don't like that. I don't do that. Like I don't have multiverse, and I don't really have time travel in the hybrid helix. Information can be sent back in time occasionally, but it's very rare, and it's very because otherwise, just plotting gets impossible. If you have a lot of time, like, if you're trying to be strict with your plots, right, you can't do a lot of time travel because it blows up. If a lot of people can travel, it's like, well, everyone's going back and fixing everything. And like, then you got Hitler as a baby and you got like 12 people in the room trying to kill him or stop them from killing him. And it's like, it gets nuts. Yeah. Starling gets into crazy stuff. Oh, yeah. It gets out there. It does get out there. Yeah. I stole a lot from those guys. Yeah.
Now, I can tell you, the things I love about this book. There are a lot. But I think if I had to pick my top three, the one thing is that the character is mature. The relationships he has are mature, right? The love interest he has, it's a mature relationship. It's not a relationship of 20-year-old, just kind of hot and heavy. It's a mature relationship.
Yeah, and she's a single mom, right? He's got to deal with a kid.
Yeah, and he's he's seasoned. He's got mature problems, right? That's someone who's kind of been around, did that, done that. And now it's not great to see coming of age and see, younger people, struggle with. But I do love me a story where the characters got a little bit of, been around the block a bit, and it's so well portrayed with those issues that you have when you reach a certain age and your certain life experience. Yeah. And that's one of the things I love. Now, was that purposeful? Was that purposeful?
Well, okay, so there's nothing wrong with the hero's journey and with those coming of age stories. They're fine, but I don't really like them anymore. Like I did, I'm sure I did when I was 20, but I'm not 20. I'm 50. Right? I'm like, all right. Like the hero's journey. Oh, and he has to go and have a mentor. So I'm like, the whole idea was at the beginning of Wistful Ascending, Rohan's been through the hero's journey and been spat out the other side, and way past. He's gone through it, and it's implied. Oh, he went through this stuff and he went through some bad things afterwards, and now it's done. And he's like, I just want to relax, and that was deliberate, right? I didn't want to revisit that. And people sometimes, I was just saying this to Mike, right? Some people are you going to write a book about the 10 years you spent in the fleet and how all those events? I'm like, no, that would suck, right? He was being controlled manipulated into doing horrible things. And that's why he's still got PTSD from it. I don't want to write those stories. You don't need to. You just watch how far he goes to not go back. Yeah, and you can use your imagination to figure out it was bad. Right, what he went through was bad. I'm not writing it. It's never going to be on the page. It doesn't need to be. But the whole point is about him coming back from the other side, him coming, like, it's the redemption story. I don't want to write about the fall, right? Like, we knew he fell, right? We know he got in trouble. And you see him fall in the books, right? It isn't like he's not perfect, right? He does some bad stuff in Wistful City. He does some bad stuff in almost every book, but he's trying. That's the thing. And that to me is, it's like people talking about the new Superman movie, which I haven't seen, but they keep saying it feels hopeful. It feels like he's trying to be a good guy. He's corny, but he means well. I'm like, that was exactly what I was going for. Rohan is relentlessly trying to do the right thing after not having done the right thing in his past. And he's like, okay, and then that is also something that kind of resonates with people. Like, I mean, a lot of people like Grimdark, but then a lot of people like, give me a hero who's trying to be a hero too.
Yeah.
Like, it's a nice change of pace. So, but yeah, having an older guy, that is probably a factor. The fact that I'm 54. I think when I was 25, I don't know if I would have written this character, but I wasn't writing. So
yeah, and I think the writing is better for it. I think people are in love with this character. That's one of the reasons why.
yeah, it's a little different. Yeah, and people tell me that. People tell me that they appreciate Rohan and in various ways. So that's the goal, right? That's the, because I mean, the whole series is third person, but it's single point of view. You spending every page with Rohan. If you didn't like him, you've got to find another book, right? It's not going to work out. Like, someone's like, oh, I don't really like a sense of humor. And I'm like, that's fine, but stop reading, please, because it doesn't get any better. Right? I promise the puns don't go away. Yes, I'm going to say James Gunn stole. I'm talking to my lawyers because that whole hero trying to. So people have messaged me. They're like, the scene from Superman is exactly something Rohan would do, and I'm like, yeah, okay. James, I'm going to slightly higher marketing reach than I have, but maybe one day he'll find doing an adaptation. I've decided I should market the hybrid helix as if James Gunn did directed Dragon Ball Z. That's
okay.
That's the comp. That's the comp I've been waiting to think of to say.
Well, that's awesome. Thanks for that, Daniel. Another great
Yeah,
from the
thank you.
community. What's up, Daniel? All
Yes.
good to you. I
Daniel's
want
a great guy.
to quickly run back and say what's up to K2U3 and his comment, and also it was Santosh.
Ganesh.
So but thanks for that, and thanks for coming
That's
by.
another friendship that I developed in through this book community. Like, Ganesh lives in Seattle. I never would have met him if not for the book world. Went to Dragon Con and he was there and he was trying to find Ryan Cahill because he had come for like one day and he had a suitcase full of like the entire Bound of the Broke. I take you telling you, I don't know if it's embarrassing, Ganesh, that I tell this story. I hope it's not. And so I'm like, well, we're going to find Ryan because I knew Ryan. I didn't know Ryan, but not like we're best friends, but I met him. I'd seen him around the con. So we got in there. We got all his books signed. It was very exciting. Got a picture with the giant stack of, because those are big boys, those books.
They're chunky boys.
Yeah, I got them all signed. It was really cool. And like, this is like, we're friends. We hung out at Dragon Con. The next year we shared a hotel. So we were in the Uber together every day back and forth because we were like 2 rooms away or a floor away or whatever. And Bo Kelly, Bo is also in the same hotel. So we were just all hanging out, having breakfast every day or whatever. And these are my friends, and like, I live in a community, but like, if I want to see my friends, I have to go to like freaking Seattle now for Worldcon to see my friend, because all my friends are all over the world. So, which is fine. I don't complain.
That's amazing. I'm so happy that happened.
Yeah.
He seems like a great guy. And Rich reminds me, looking forward to hopefully meeting you in Seattle for Worldcon.
You're not gonna be able to avoid me, man. I'm gonna be all over the place. Like, we were like, oh, what are the panels you're going to? Go to panels. I'm gonna go to the bar and I'm gonna find people and follow them around. That's what I do at cons. I'm on a couple panels, so that'll be fun. But my goal is not to like go to events. My goal is to like find where the party is and talk to people, and it made my whole career was Dragon Con. Meeting all the people there and then like having like actual conversations with like big name authors, most of whom will happily sit there and like eat a Caesar salad with you and talk books. Like, people like Jim Butcher's too famous, Brandon Sanderson's too famous, But you go down even a notch from that. You get to like you was hanging out with like Andy Peliquin, like Sebastian Nicosta. They'll talk to you because they're not too big to do that, and it's an amazing experience.
Yeah. Triple, he says, come to Oregon Coast and buy a
I'll
coffee.
be yeah, well, I'll be at Worldcon. Come to
There you go.
Worldcon,
There you
and
go.
I'm spending like the 4 days there. Pretty bad event, PTSD.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I spent a lot of time trying to figure out just how bad the PTSD should be and how angsty should be, and I erred on the side of not. Like Rohan's not. He has moments where he's like, I should probably let these guys kill me, but it like doesn't last more than a paragraph, and he's not sitting around all the time like moping and feeling self-destructive. That's a perfectly valid way to write this kind of character. It's just I chose not to, right? And that was very deliberate. I wanted him to be like, I did a lot of bad stuff. I'm going to try to do better. Let's move on, and not wallowing in it. Because I mean, there's a lot of characters in the genre, like who wallow in there, like the reformed assassin who's just like constant. Oh, I killed so many people. Oh, I'm such a bad person. Oh, I don't deserve happiness. And I'm like, let's not play that out. Like, let's do something else. Let's have a guy who's like, I still think I deserve happiness. I'm going to try.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there was a
Well,
different.
and that's another one of the things that's amazing with books. Just quickly going back to the couple things that I absolutely love. But see, you're a funny guy, man. You're a witty guy, and the book is hilarious. And some of
Thank you.
it is just
Thank you.
outright like slapstick funny. Some of it's corny, cheesy, funny. Some of it's like
it's cheesy.
ironic, dark humor, funny. But it's funny, and
I can't write without it. I've tried. I'm like every other writer. Like I've got a box full of first chapters, right? And I've tried to write I actually had a character, a fantasy character who had like much more of he's done bad things, but he's traumatized by it. Like, screams at night, and is down and depressed and suffering more. I couldn't write it because I'm just like, he wasn't funny. Because the character shouldn't have been funny, right? Like, I mean, I don't think it was a bad character, but I couldn't write it. I couldn't, I didn't have the patience. I'm like, if I can't put the stupid jokes in there, I just, I can't write without my attempt at humor. Cause it's just what keeps me going. It keeps me entertained. It's like, cause that stuff is that's the pantsing side. I don't make up the jokes before I write the story. I write the story and the jokes come in the heat of the moment, right? That's how I entertain myself in the process. So, but thank you. Yeah.
No, but it feels, and it's funny you say that, and much is made of the difference between plotters and pantsers, and I'm a plotter or whatever. But I think that's one of the reasons too why the humor works. It feels natural, it feels spontaneous, it feels off the cuff. Yeah. It feels like you and I just joking around, and we'll make fun of each other. It feels like that, the banter.
Yeah. I do tell a lot of jokes, like sometimes to my detriment, but like in real life, like that's how I am. Like that's just how I cope with everything. So I'm the one who's like in the office, and every once in a while, like everyone's quiet. I mean, like I'll just like say, "That's what she said," for no reason. Like that was like my thing. So I do tell a lot of jokes. Thank you. I'm glad. And then it was so funny. Like this is one of those moral lessons for writers, right? Like you say like, who wants to beta read this book? And people say, I'll beta read it. You usually just say great, and you send it to them, right? And I had one guy come back and he said, it was okay, but like the humor really detracts from the tone. I think you should take out all the jokes and you'd have a much more like serious, like sort of story about like this. And I'm like, thanks for trying. Like, I don't know what to say to that. I'm like, you can't just take the humor out of it's like, that's a different book. I mean, he wanted me to write the book he would have written, which is because I actually read something this guy wrote, right? And it was like very serious. I'm like, nothing wrong with that, right? That's perfectly valid. But it's also like, you just want a different thing. Like, that's not going to happen. Yeah. I did not strip all the jokes out of, I forget what book it was. I think it was Blood Reunion. But
well, I'm glad I can't wait to read more of it. And Santos says he loves the humor. Big shout out to the awesome
really?
Shad. Hey man,
hey, Shad.
What's up?
Shares my wife's last name.
What's that?
That's my wife's last name, Zaman.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It means time in Arabic.
Oh wow.
So
Yeah.
she did not change her name. That was never going to happen. She's a physician. That was going to be not that I wanted her to. I'm not saying that, but
Yeah.
still has that name. So
I'm sure she's still proud of
yeah,
being married to you, my friend. So
I
name or
don't
not.
know. Yeah, some days more than others. Yeah,
But
you
yeah, what's
should
up,
try.
Chad? Awesome person in the community. So great. And quickly, Chibo says, oh, to Dragon Ball Z compares as well. So the question is, how does your MC stack in the best dad category? And
I
this
will
question
have
is
to.
for
So
anything.
fundamentally poorly, because part of the world building process is that the reason that the hybrids who are half Ildrock is this race, and they're half Ildrock and half something else. So all the hybrids are a mix with something else, and um, they're sterile, and that is why their powers sort of activate. And that's, you sort of figure that out by the end of the first book. But so Rohan can never be a biological dad. So he I don't spend a ton of time talking about him being a father figure to children. It happens maybe more off screen, and there's a relationship between him and his ship that develops that people say resembles fatherhood. Shad's from parents are from Bangladesh. My wife's family is from Bangladesh. They're Sylheti. They're from Sylhet. Um, yeah, this is one of these cool things, right? So I put a reference to Bangladesh somewhere because my wife's family is like from, like, she was born here, but they were all born there, and she actually lived there for a few years, like growing up. So they're not really science fiction fantasy people, which is totally fine. They're lovely. Her family is super nice to me. They're all close, but like this guy Shakib Chowdhury, who's a booktuber in Bangladesh. He does in Bangla, his channel. He read my book and he was like, I mentioned Bangladesh somewhere. So he messaged me. He's like, oh, I heard you say it. And I'm like, yes, we became friends, and he had me on his channel. So I've been interviewed by this guy on his channel, and my wife's family now, they're like, now to them, I'm like I've never had more points with my wife's family than I have, like that. The fact that they can watch an interview from a guy who speaks in Bangladesh, right? Okay. That could be related. Well, it's a big country, but, so this was a cool thing, right? This is like, I never would have met this guy, right? He's literally the other side of the world, but through books. So that's just it's an area in Bangladesh, and still a better
Wow.
dad than Goku. Then I don't know. I think there's a lot of things Goku does that are questionable, and that's part of why I write. Part of it is you read one of these manga or watch an anime or something, like the character, this is something dumb, and you're like, I'm gonna have my character not do that dumb thing, and then you throw it in a story like where he doesn't do the dumb thing, and that's a big part of what motivates me to keep writing stories.
Just avoidance of dumb things.
I'm not even kidding. Like I can't think of a really great example right now, but we just watched Madam Web and it was terrible, and I'm just trying to like think of all the different ways the plot was delivered poorly, and I'm like, okay, I'm not doing that. This is how you learn.
No,
So
I hear you. You mentioned that final thing I really want to bring up about, and again, there's many reasons why I love your books. I take me a while to go through them all, but I love the Easter eggs, the references to popular culture. I'm Canadian, so, and because you lived in
oh
Buffalo,
yeah,
you have experience with the other side, north of the
oh
border
yeah,
there, and
oh yeah,
I see you drop in all these references to all this stuff, including
yeah.
Canadiana, and I absolutely love it. It's
Tim
awesome.
Hortons, right?
Tim Hortons, yeah,
Have a Tim
Timmy's like,
Hortons reference.
yeah, Timmy's like all that stuff. It's just now, was that something? Now you have a lot of fun with it,
Yeah.
but was that your idea, or did someone say, "Hey, Joe, it'd be kind of cool if you drop
Oh
that stuff in"? Like what?
no,
What
that
is?
no one that almost never comes from someone else. That's all me. I think with the Canadian thing, so there's this stereotype that Canadians are more polite, and I think there was a joke. I don't think I had. I don't remember honestly if I had him as being part Canadian when I first wrote the character. But then there was the one place where someone's like, someone said something in wistful sending like, "You're really nice." Like, well, I am Canadian, and it's like, and then I'm like, okay, once I thought of that line, like, well, now that's canon. I got to keep that, like you can't move on from that. And then once he's there, it's like I got to make a hockey joke here and there, or like a Tim Hortons reference, because I lived in Buffalo. But I lived in Buffalo though. Not just did I live in Buffalo, but I lived in Buffalo pre 9/11. right? And it was different. You would just go to Canada. Like
Yeah.
they just waved. If you were white, they just waved. I say that if you were white because I had an Asian roommate, and I was like, they never stop us, dude. And he's like, they stop us when I'm with you. And I'm like, no, they won't. And sure enough, yes, they did. Right. Anyway. Um, my roommate, the roommate I'm talking about, John Chu, Hugo and Nebula Award winner,
Oh wow.
who has a novel coming out from Tor. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. My college roommate won a Hugo, which is and a Locus, and I think a Nebula. At least a
Yeah.
Hugo and a
Yeah.
Locus.
He's
Yeah,
very,
he's like a
very
real.
well,
Yeah,
very well
yeah, yeah,
decorated
yeah.
author.
We neither of us did anything connected to writing when we knew each other, but now he's like a big shot. I'm like, okay, it's kind of funny. It's kind of funny. Yeah, that just stuff. Just the thing I wanted to do right off the bat was make him part Telugu, because I was very inspired by a certain genre of. So India has a number of different places where movies are made. The movies are different. Like the Bollywood and the Tollywood movies have different characteristics, different styles, somewhat different. And the stuff made in Telugu cinema, I just really meant a lot to me. A lot of these, especially action comedies where the heroes are very overpowered. They're never really going to lose, but you're still compelled to keep watching. It's almost like they break the rules. Take it easy, man.
Yeah.
Eddie.
Teasy Eddie. Thanks for coming, buddy.
So I really wanted to pay homage to the style of those movies in the ways I wrote the book, but then I'm like, I got to make the character part from, have his origins there for the same reason.
Yeah.
So that was very deliberate, very early. Like that was one of the first things I had in my mind when I wrote the character. Doesn't really have a big impact on the story, like the fact that he's an alien with superpowers has much bigger effect on his life than the fact that his mom's from, India. Like that, it matters, but it doesn't matter as much. So, but I've had people pick up the books like, oh, it's a book about a brown superhero. Like that's interesting. Like some brown people, and like, I want to read that. And the people have read it for that reason. I'm like, great, whatever works, whatever sells another copy,
Well,
So,
I mean, again, you've done really well. Series extremely
yeah.
popular. What's the hardest thing for you about being an author? What's the toughest thing of being an indie author?
Oh, what's the toughest thing? For me, it's going to make me sound arrogant again. It's probably something like it's how hard it is to reach the audience you want to reach. And then it's going to make me sound like a jerk, but sometimes you see other people who, I don't know if you want to say that they're reaching a bigger audience for various, what's the classic example? Like someone who was like on like a show like The Bachelor or something, and then they land a book deal, and their book is not that great, and you're like, you got that deal because you're on The Bachelor, not because you can write, and like that's just hard. It's hard to like. It's the way the world is. Like, I don't really blame the publisher because, you can sell that guy's book because he was on The Bachelor or whatever. This was a real example of some guy. I forget what reality show he was on, but he like landed a book deal. I'm like, I've never been on a reality show, but I think people would like my book more. But so that's kind of tough. And then the other hard part is, I don't know if I have anything new to say, but the having to do everything. And especially because I learned that I am a terrible art director. Like it's not the same thing as being an artist, right? Because I know people who can do their own covers and they look good, and that's phenomenal, right? But then I know a lot of indie authors who can at least go to a company like Mibble Art or something, and they can say, this is what I want, and I want this kind of font, and I want this kind of layout, and they get something that looks really good because the people listen to them. Like they have a sense, like, oh, they look at two covers, like this one is better than this one. And I don't. I'm really bad at that. I'll look at two and I'm like, oh, this one's cool. And people like people like Jeff Brown, right? Because I was hanging out with Jeff Brown at Dragon Con. I was like, I really like the way this turned. He's like, no, that typography is all wrong for you. And I'm like, but I love it. He's like, shut up. He didn't say shut up. He's a super nice guy, but he was like, don't do it this way, do it this way. That's why I redid the typography in all my books. Cause like, I really like the old typography, but he's like, it's not going to do you any favors. You've got to change it. And I'm like, okay, because Jeff Brown knows better than me. But that's like being an art director. It's like, you have to have an eye for that. Like Patrick Leo, like,
yeah.
say what you want. The guy's working. Like, I don't think Patrick Leo can do art. Maybe he can. I have no, I've never heard anyone say he can paint or whatever. But it's not trivial to find the artist,
Yeah.
get the vision, and turn it into a great book. That's a skill set and a talent that I don't have. Right, it's one of the reasons I don't do special editions, or I haven't yet. Right, I feel like I would need to hire an art director. Like I know other people, like who's my favorite example is probably Baptiste Pinson-Wu.
Yeah.
He's another indie author. His covers, every freaking
Yeah.
one is a banger,
That's
a
amazing.
banger.
Yeah.
And like he's not an artist. I don't think he didn't do them, but he can go on like one of these websites and go through portfolios and say, this guy can do the cover I want. It's going to look good. Find the typography or do the typography. I don't know if he does typography himself. I don't think he does, but maybe he does. Every cover's a banger. And I'm like, I can't do that. I've gotten lucky. Chris does great covers. I've gotten lucky with those. I've gotten lucky with the Jake Caleb Designs who did the cover Partial Function, which I love that cover, but it's not my fault. Like I got lucky, right? Like the brief I gave him happened to turn into a good cover, but I gave the same brief to a different artist and it did not turn out well. So like I know it's not me. So that's the hard part. You have to do everything yourself. And I mean, the advantage of publishing is, in theory, with traditional publishing, right? You get good writers who aren't necessarily good at marketing, but then you hire someone who's a marketer,
Yeah.
and they're two different people. But we can't. I mean, some of us can do that. Some of us are making big money, but most of us can't. Like I can't afford an art director, so that's the hard part.
Yeah.
Because my goal is to have my books in every possible conceivable way on your shelf be equal to anything you can get from trade. I want someone to have my books next to the Dresden Files and say, these are just as good. I want this. And I'm not saying I succeed, but that's the goal. The goal
You're pretty close, buddy.
I appreciate that. But my point is not that I'm there. My point is that is my only goal. My goal is not to have people go, oh, he's pretty good for an indie, right? I hate that.
Yeah.
Like, no. Right. I want you to feel like it belongs just as much. And so, that's the hard part.
I feel it belongs. You have a lot of fans out there that love your work. So I think
I'm so grateful to that. I'm so
something to be
grateful
proud
everyone
of,
who's
man.
read it. Yeah. It's been a really interesting and weird ride. I'm super grateful to everyone who picks up the book, because I'm sure everyone who picks it up has a moment where like, this sounds dumb. Because I think on a very superficial level, like man punching spaceships, like that's not bringing in the literary crowd, like, oh, clearly this is a masterpiece, like the tagline. So if anyone who gave it a chance, I'm always very grateful for them.
I think the beauty of indie is that there's something for everyone. And you often, I find myself picking up books and I go, I probably never would have read this otherwise, but I heard so-and-so loved it and I'm hearing this buzz and like, wow. And then you pick it up, it's like, awesome. This is awesome. I'm not, and I'm not saying you classify or quantify your book as like lit RPG or whatever, but I don't read a lot of superhero stuff.
Oh,
but
no one does.
I had to.
No one does.
I was so drawn to this, and I'm so happy I read it because it was just awesome, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's part of the beauty of indie.
I really dislike the very idea of lit RPG. Not that it's a bad thing, but for me, I just have zero interest. I'm not a gamer, but man, I read Dungeon Crawler Carl, and that rocked. Yeah. Those books slap. They're really good. And I'm like, okay, and what do I know about myself, right? Like I didn't think I would, because I like progression fantasy, but like lit RPG just doesn't appeal to me in theory. But then I read those books, and Matt Dittman is just. Have you read those? The Dungeon Crawler Carl?
No, I haven't read
They're much better than you expect. No matter how good you hear, they're better than that. Because what he does is he's taking these books and he's like, there's like a lot of humor and a lot of action and a lot of like plot and like interesting characters, but there's also like some depth and some social commentary. And you add that where it doesn't need to be there to make the book. It's not about the social commentary. It's just extra. And it makes it great for me. I love that. I love when there's that extra layer to it. You can look at it from this extra perspective.
I think we say about your books, because again, I don't think it's a book where people are expecting after they, you get so fun and there's space bears and you're like, yeah, this is awesome. And you got this kind of, our sarcastic and clever AI and you got, like there's so many elements, but then you do start, there's some social commentary there, and there's some really important things that Joe's saying that you want to pay attention to, and I absolutely love that. So
Yeah, I try, right? But the goal for me is to make a book that's fun first and then has a little bit of depth that you have to think about it, almost like as a secondary thing. But the goal is not to be an ethics lesson. I could have written a philosophy textbook on ethics.
yeah.
The goal is to make a fun book that may have some ethics implications in there, right? And I did not know that, Daniel. That's super interesting. I've been using the word superhero for
Yeah.
for years.
Yeah, so have I. How has, like, how has things like um lit RPG and progression fantasy and Marvel and comics, like, how has that influenced what's being written out there right now? Like, how in traditional fantasy, traditional publishing of fantasy, traditional publishers, it seems to be all about following a trend that they believe
Yeah.
is hot and will sell. Indie is about creating trends. But then when we throw lit RPG, progression fantasy, things similar to that, and superhero stuff, Marvel MCU, how does it influence what we're consuming?
I mean, it's influencing a lot because a lot of those lit RPG authors are selling a lot of books,
Yeah.
like a lot of books, and we don't hear from them in our corner of indie. We're in a weird corner of indie, like the whole booktube community, and it like reads a certain kind of books. Like Ryan Cahill's big, and like that release schedule of releasing like one or two books a year, and like going for Spiffbo. There's that whole
Yeah.
culture, but more money is being made by the lit RPG folks putting out 10 books a year. Like the Tao
Yeah.
Wong. I know Tao Wong. I met him at a Dragon Con. Like the Tao
Yeah,
Wongs
great
of the
guy.
world, who are
Yeah.
great guy. Love. Oh yeah, he's fellow Canadian.
Yeah, I met him before too. Yeah, great guy.
Yeah, super guy. But like, he's on that lit RPG release model, and he's selling a lot of books, so he's a huge influence on what we're reading. But it's not a big influence on the booktube community, which, I mean, other than like Brian Bell, there's not a lot of them talking a lot about lit RPG. And then, but it's I think what's really interesting is like wait 5 years and see how much of it trickles into trade, which you're seeing the tiniest bit of that. Tao got a trade deal for one of his books, right? One of the ones in the Thousand Lee is being published by a real publisher, a trade publisher, and Dinneman is, right. The first 3 Dungeon Crawler Carls are in bookstores. He got a trade deal. So the question is, in 5 years, are they going to have more of it, or are they going to turn away? And I suspect they're going to turn away from the LRPG, and they'll still be the exception, because I think the people who work in those industries don't really understand that stuff. And I think they're going to shy away from it because they don't really understand it. They don't know how to market it. They don't know how to judge it when they read it. I think most of them see a block of stats at the end of a chapter and they just put the book away. And I think that unless they started hiring a generation of editors who are into that, which I just don't see happening anytime soon. I absolutely could be wrong, right? That's my guess, but I'm not like, I don't have like special knowledge, but like Wandering In sells a lot of copies.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I forget if the creator is male or female, or maybe we don't know, because they keep their identity pretty under wraps. But they're making a lot of money. They're selling a lot of books. But like, the average person's not heard of Wandering In. Like
Yeah. And I don't know, I'm perplexed because I have a lot of friends that are diehard lit RPG diehard. That's their thing. I don't really read it. But then once in a while you pick up something that, and again, yours is more superheroish, but that you just fall in love with, and you're like, okay, well, I'm planning to read 25 books now in this series, and I think the other thing too is the influence of, you talked about the corner community, is BookTube, and BookTube has this huge influence in our little neck of the woods about what's popular, what should be read, what's.
Well, there's a lot of beautiful things about indie. Like one of them is like lit RPG wouldn't exist without it, right? The whole genre was created indie and was carried by indie for 10 years, which is crazy. I think if you had asked people in the lit RPG community 8 years ago, I bet they would have said, "Oh, within a few years, half Tor's catalogs will be lit RPG." But that hasn't happened. I mean, it's like one book or one series, and other than that, it really hasn't. And then, but I mean, the stuff, and I'm not saying that I'm innovative, but like there are things I can do as an indie author. No traditional publisher would have let me do what I'm doing with this series.
Yeah.
I mean, if I had written a best-selling trilogy first, maybe.
Yeah.
But even then, to say I'm going to write 25 books about a superhero who punches giant bugs, there's no one who would have given me, and no one who would have given me the leeway to like still publish 7 books later, and maybe it'll take off after 10. Who knows, right? Like, because I can just take the loss year after year because I can, right? This is like, I don't own a boat. I don't gamble. I know I have friends who go to Vegas. I don't go to Vegas. This is my Vegas, right?
Yeah.
But you couldn't do this. Trade couldn't do this, right? Trade couldn't have created a new genre. They don't know how. They don't know how to do progression. They don't know how to tap into the market of people who, because progression and lit RPG, they had this built-in audience from people who were reading manga and manhwa in that style, right? So there's this built-in, but those are young people. That's not, Trey doesn't know who those kids are, So that's a beautiful thing about indie. We can do whatever we want, no matter how stupid it is. That's what I always say.
No, and that's an excellent point. And you know what? I think the other thing is that, we as indies, we're really damn proud of what we're doing. Like, we're really like, we feel that we're avant-garde, that we're cutting edge.
Yeah.
We feel like we're on that, we're setting those trends, and we're, those things are going where no one wants to go, and still having our audiences, small or big they may be, but still achieving these audiences. And I think that's what any writer wants. Like, I would rather have 10 slavish, absolutely enamored readers of my book than 100 that think it's just okay, or 1,000 that think it's just okay.
When you create a work of art and someone gets what you were trying to say with it, that is an act of communication and of bonding and of human connection, and an absolutely as fundamental as, so that person can be on the side of the world and have picked up a book. You may never have been in the same room or had direct contact, but you have a connection to them that is incredibly powerful and deep. And that only happens when you are writing from your authentic self and they are appreciating it as their authentic self. And this is why I think there's a divide and some, I don't want to say that there's some sense among many indie authors like us where maybe we're writing from our hearts. And then there's a lot of indie authors who are maybe writing to market because they need to make money, because they need to pay an electric bill. And I have no problem with anyone who does that. But like, I was on a Discord with someone and they said that what they did they write a book a month, and for every book, they would go through the top 10 bestsellers in their genre, and whatever tropes were there, they'd make sure those tropes were in their next book. That's how they plotted the book. And I'm like, you're making money. That's your side gig. That's phenomenal. But you're losing, right? Because you're not getting that connection, because you're just getting readers who are sucked into the thing that you don't really care about those tropes. And maybe you do, but maybe you don't. But you picked them out of the bestseller, right? You picked them from a marketing reason, and that's why you wrote them. But you're not going to have, maybe you're making more money than me, right? And maybe that's what you want. And it's not immoral. It's not like it's wrong. But I'm like, but you're not going to get that same feeling that I can get when someone reads a book. And this is why I love reviews and why I read all my reviews, right? Because it's not always smart, but like when someone really gets it, it's so rewarding. And someone's like, oh, and this was an homage to Bollywood romance, because the whole romance between him and Tamara was like it's like the B story in many Bollywood romance movies, right? And that's where the guy gives the girl up to her true love at the end of the film, like on the way to the wedding usually, which I didn't do that exactly, but it's the same ideas, or on the way to the airport. Often it's on the way to an airport. The airport whole thing in Bollywood is a whole thing. Anyway, but that communication, like you can't, I don't know, what's that worth?
Yeah, no, it's priceless. It's nothing priceless.
Yeah, I mean, like, but I'm also speaking from a place of privilege, because, I can pay my electric bill. I have a lucrative day job. I'm not rich, but like, I don't need anything. I don't go to the I don't go to the gas station. Maybe I'll only put in 3 gallons today and hope it lasts until I get my next paycheck. I don't live like that. If I did, I'd probably be checking the tropes in the top 10 bestsellers, right? Because I'd need the money. And there's nothing wrong with people in that situation, but I'm speaking from where I am. It's a place of privilege. I don't have to. And I'm glad I don't have to, because it gives me that experience where I can write the book and if people really get it, that's, yeah. Hey, the fantasy thinker.
Yeah. We got some amazing people joining. The awesome Timothy Wolf, my favorite people in the community as well.
Oh yeah,
brilliant author. Check out his series. Right? It's awesome.
Absolutely.
I love his stuff, and always great day to see Timothy. So thanks, buddy, for joining. Also, we got the awesome Jared, the fantasy thinker. Brilliant booktuber. Check out his channel as well.
I'm listening to a lot of Jared's stuff lately. I don't know.
He's awesome.
Did and absolutely. The science fiction classics that he does with Varsha, and I love those. I don't listen to all of them, but I listen to whatever. And these are books I haven't. So I'm listening to him talk about it, but I've never read the book. I'm just listening to him talk about it. I don't know why.
Again, that booktube effect where never heard of this book. There's some obscure rec from this corner, and then boom, next thing you know, you found a favorite series, and that's
But sometimes I just feel like I get a lot of value out of having people analyze a book, even if I'm never going to read it, because just learning like what people do and do not like in books, and I'm like, to me that's almost interesting in itself, because then I can look to that and I can think about how that molds like things I want to maybe avoid or to do in my own books, so sometimes I get a lot of value from that too. Yeah, Timothy's writing to market must be stressful. Yeah. Well, I mean, part of the trick to really writing to market is writing fast and releasing fast. And if you want to make money as an indie writer, that is still probably the best. I mean, Ryan Kyle's doing very well on the sort of traditional model, right? He's writing 1 or 2 big books a year. But a lot of indie writers who are making money are not doing it that way, and they're doing the rapid release, and they're writing to market, and that's fine.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with it. It's just I need to read War of Light and Shadow. I know. I've been a fan of Janny Wirtz since before most of these people were born, because I read, Mistress, the Empire series, Mistress of Empire. I read that when it came out, like I love those books when they were published. These people like 30, they're like, oh, this is so long ago. I'm like, yeah, I read those. I think I still have them somewhere. I got to go through my old boxes and see if I have the old ratty paperbacks.
Can't recommend her highly enough, man. She's my favorite fantasy author, and one of my favorite people. She is just a warm and wonderful human being, and
add another asset to the community. She reads a lot of stuff and promotes stuff, and she's super nice. She's wonderful.
And for
she gets involved.
Oh yeah,
and really involved.
And for a big iconic author, she's so approachable and accessible, and It's,
totally.
Awesome.
Yeah, when I'm as big as her, man, I'm not answering anybody's calls. That's all I'm saying. I'm gonna be who are you again? I can't wait to be big so I can forget all the people who helped me on the way up.
No, that's definitely not you, man. That's definitely not you, my friend. So, but listen, Timmy said my next will be Little RPG Romance, Monster Erotica.
I keep thinking of ideas for progression fantasy that I want to write, but I haven't gotten there yet. It's always easy to have ideas.
Where you're selling out, yeah. Well, I mean, I think there's also this idea, like, listen, man, if you love writing, whatever, write it. Yeah. You're gonna be very happy. And that's going to be more fulfilling than anything else you do, right? If you want to write erotica, porn, whatever, write it and be happy with it. Oh yeah, speaking of great booktubers, Chris Mohan, what's up, buddy? Hey, thanks for coming out. Awesome, great to see you. Check out Chris's channel.
Nice to see you, Chris. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, and more great people. Stuff. Bex, what do you say? With a good time.
Bex.
That's awesome. No, this is a great crowd.
OG readers, yeah. I have all these boxes of books that I've had like, in storage lockers forever. And I finally have like shelves to put them on. And I keep waiting. I'm like, I'm going to make a video where I unbox these things and like a live, oh, this book, and put it on the shelf. I never do it. It's been like a year I've lived in this house. And I still haven't like done one box. It's really like I really need to get that getting gear, but I have a lot of old stuff that I want to put on the shelves. And I have like all these like broken binding things that I haven't unpacked because I'm like, I want to do it in a video. So now they're just all in boxes, like in my garage. It's very sad. Yeah.
Well, listen, I do want to, as we're wondering, I do want to give you a chance just to, like, I know it's really hard in a long series, potentially 25 books or more or less, to talk about new release. Again, congratulations on the release, Shield and Mothership.
Thank you. Yeah.
Is there anything you can tell us, non-spoilery, about what this new release is about?
Yeah. Where baby ships come from.
Ah.
It's the birds and the bees. Not literally, but figuratively, of starships. We find out where starships come from and why they come from there and not other places, and what can and of course the shenanigans and kerfuffles involved in a giant turtle, and more secrets about ancient history to be revealed as usual. And like I almost feel silly pitching any of the books. Like I'm like, okay, if you've read books 1 through 6. If you want to read book 7, because it's tone, it's more of the same sort of thing. It's not like a dramatic shift. It's not like this is where it gets dark. That's not happening. It's never going to happen. So you kind of know, did you really enjoy the first 6? Then you're really going to enjoy the books the 7, I promise, right? And if you didn't read the first 6, you should start there. Like so, and if you read the first 3 and you're like, this isn't for me, book 7's not for you. You know what I mean? Like maybe I'm a slightly better writer than I was after Blood Reunion or whatever, but like really, I think the tone and the general, it's not a formulaic, but the general style of the books is pretty consistent. Yeah. And you really kind of have to read them all or none, so I almost like pitching them as silly, but I will say, let me just pitch this. So the book comes out July 22nd. So from the 22nd through like the 25th, the first 3 books in the Hybrid Helix will be free on Amazon Kindle. So if anyone feels like just picking them up, just in case you think you might want to read them later, that's the time to do it. And yeah, I want to tell people that because I don't think I've announced that anywhere. I didn't tweet it or anything. I should get to that. I'm not good at marketing. I'm okay, but I'm not great. Some people are so much better.
Okay, well, that's awesome to know. And again, I'm wishing you nothing but the best with the launch. I'm sure it's going to be absolutely fabulous. Check out the whole Hybrid Helix series. I have to, go on to the next book. Like I said, I'm going to have a nice shelf of JCM Berne stuff in my office. So I'm looking forward to that day when I can.
They are pretty.
Catch up with the rest of the series. Oh yeah, they are definitely pretty.
Pretty.
Also want to give an opportunity for you to kind of shout out where we can buy your books, if we can buy, author direct stuff, all your social media handles where we can, check you out, follow you, and learn more about.
I have a website, jcmberne.com. I'm on Twitter at JoeBerne1, number 1. I'm on Blue Sky as I think JCM Berne. I think all my email and stuff is JCM Berne. I was pretty consistent about that. And that's about, and I have a Patreon, JCM Berne, where you can join for free. And basically, if you join the free tier on Patreon, I basically give you everything that you would get for a paid tier. So, there's no risk, right? There's no money. Just sign up for that. So the Grim Dwarf, which is a book, it's a fantasy novel. It's like 80,000 words, and some people really like it. And actually, I haven't heard anything negative about it. It's not really well known, but I'm going to release that probably next week. But for right now, the link is still around just to pick it up for free, even without an email. But you can sign up for my newsletter, and I'll send you a link where all this stuff is free. And the big sale is next week. So 22nd to the 25th, the first 3 I'll do. I'm just doing the Will White thing. Every time a new Cradle book would come out, he'd make the first 6 free, and he was selling 1 million books a year. I'm like, well, Will White knows what he's doing. So who am I to say? Who am I to argue with Will White? So I'm trying the same sort of idea, and and then if anyone has picked up Return of the Griffin a long time ago and hasn't read it, and they have it digitally, delete your download and re-download it, because I significantly revised it at the end of 2024. I really rewrote that book, and I think it'll be a much more enjoyable experience for most people to read the new one. That's a long story,
Okay.
but there was a
Okay.
very specific mistake in that book that I rectified. So
Okay.
hopefully people like the new one better.
The beauty of self-pub is, you
I
know,
I re-released Wistful Ascending. I completely I released it, got a new cover, cut 10,000 words, rewrote like every paragraph and re-released it. So it's like, I can do better than this. Like a year after I wrote it, after, this is before anyone knew who I was, but before like I entered Spiffbo, before I had any booktube like traction, I just did it. I'm like, if I'm going to write a long series, I got to make the first book, better. And because I learned stuff, I did like Sanderson's lectures, like things like that. When I say I learned stuff, things I didn't know anything. I didn't know anything about like passive language, any of that stuff. I'm like, oh, I can fix this. Yeah. And then if anyone, look, if you need a book, message me. I'm happy to give away books. I do it all the time.
what a great guy. What a great guy.
Uh,
Lucas, maybe that's why Lucas Clay says you're his hero.
that's very sweet. Yeah, Lucas read out Wistful not too long ago. Got the audio. I need more of the audio done. That's just so hard because there's so many people who are really audio only readers.
Yeah.
You have audio of the first book, PL?
Just the first book.
Just the first. It's such an investment, or unless you can do it yourself, which most of us can't. Like A.R. Witham does his own. He's really good, but he's got an acting background. That's a different deal.
Yeah, I get emails and messages almost every day. Hey, you the rest of the series in audio. I'm like, maybe when I finish the series, I can go back and think about investing in $5,000 to $10,000 per book in an audiobook. But for now,
and yours are longer than mine. Mine
yeah.
are only 13 hours ish, so it's a little cheaper. Yeah. And then I bit the bullet. I should get 2 more done this year, end of the year. So get some people to get more of the series under their belts, because I always feel like it's meant to be read as a series. Like, because stuff changes. It's not just Monster of the Week, books. So there's a progression, and like, to me, the joy is when someone gets in, like, they get to book 5 and they're like, oh, I've been on a journey.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't realize, because the journey's in these little bite-sized chunks, but then you get to book 5 and you're like, that was going somewhere. Things were being said. And that, to me, that's why you write a long series. When you write a long series, you can pay off this thing in book 5 that you barely mentioned in book 1. And people go, oh, that wasn't a throwaway line. That wasn't just useless background information. That meant something. Like, yeah, that's the joy. So
yeah,
it's a lot of fun.
The joy. That is.
Yeah, and thank you, PL, man. You're such a, I talk about how rewarding the community is, and how that feedback and that connection to other writers is such a bit, but like, you are a huge part of making that happen, because you get the people on the show, and this is how we know each other, is through like being guests on your page chewing on this kind of thing, 6 Elementals. And that's a huge service. That's to make this community so wonderful, is guys like you. So
well, thank you.
I've been watching you forever. So not forever, but for the 2-3, it's been a while. Like 3 years. Like 3 years I've been watching your stuff. So at least something like that.
Well, thank you, my friend. As I always say, I get back way more than I give, because this community is just so incredible. So,
and I'll see you in Seattle, right?
Yeah, I was going to see you in Seattle there for WorldCon. Hoping to see a lot of people that I haven't had the honor and privilege of meeting yet. But yeah, thanks again to the wonderful Joe Berne for coming on. This has been absolutely fantastic.
Thank you.
Quickly, the shameless self-promotional part. I'm PL Stewart. I'm the author of the John Keem Saga. 5 books out now. 6th one, A Black Dragon Unread, coming in the spring of 2026. Nice. The books, plstewart.com. The socials, almost everything is at PL Stewart Writes, Facebook, Blue Sky, Twitter, Instagram, all that jazz. I'm an assistant editor with Before We Go blog. Shout out to the wonderful Beth Tabler and the Before We Go blog crew. You can see my reviews there and on Goodreads. And of course on YouTube on my channel, PL Stewart, The John Keem Saga. 6 Elemental Interviews is my interview series. And with my awesome partner, another amazing booktuber, check out our channel, Taylor, for Maybe Between the Pages, on Page Chewing, under the Page Chewing umbrella, of course. Heralded Page Chewing is an incredible thing, and it's under the umbrella of the fabulous Page Chewing, run by the awesome Steve from Steve Talks Books. So I'm hoping Joe will do me the honor of coming back again in the future and for that chat.
Anytime, man.
I don't feel like we even covered
Anytime, man.
a tenth of
We
what
didn't
I
talk
wanted
about
to.
your books, man. We got to talk about your books more.
No,
We got to
that's
talk
not.
about got to talk about unlikable main hero and like the stab in the dark you took. Man, that was I don't think I would have had the stones to have a guy with that character in the first book. Just throw it at the audience and be like, you're gonna care whether you like him or not. And it worked. It worked fabulously, and that's not easy to pull off.
Well, thanks,
So
man. That's
that's
what we talk
great
about.
stuff.
Indies. It's the courage we have, and it's the
Yeah,
chances we take that we set the trends, man. So
yeah,
but
good.
thank you for that. That's very kind.
No,
But
of course.
yeah. Thanks so much, everyone. I can't even name all the people now in the
Yeah,
chat
thanks for coming to
that
the chat,
joined.
guys.
Thanks so much,
Appreciate
everybody.
that.
You guys are all incredible.
Yeah,
Thanks for
really
everyone
are.
who will watch the replay. You are what makes this type of long form content amazing. Hey, long form
100%.
content, I love it. I know a lot of people aren't fans, but I love long form content. I love this kind of stuff. So,
Yeah.
but guests such as Joe make it just all worthwhile. So,
Thank you, man. Appreciate that.
everyone, have a fantastic evening, day, night, wherever you are, and we'll see you next time.